Hi, this is the Social Jello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Jello with Angelo show.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Social Jello with Angelo podcast. I'm wearing a beanie, talking about hip hop. The two things aren't related, it's just really cold. How martial arts shaped hip hop, the hidden influence. So martial arts and hip hop have been connected since the very beginning, influencing everything from lap lyrics to breakdancing, fashion. Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan. There it is. Wrong one, not this one. This one is for the children. So I'm going to try not to cuss too much, but I probably will. So from Kung Fu films to discipline, philosophy behind the art forms, we're going to go over how martial arts has shaped hip hop culture and look into legendary movies like stuff by Bruce Lee, iconic artists, and some philosophy that ties all this stuff together. Some fun facts. I keep getting contacted by John Chu. John, who's that guy? You know him. He's your friend. Oh, by the way, this is my guest, Professor Ronnie Isagiri. Go out of San Diego. He's a Kajukenbo instructor, and he's also a leader in the hip hop community. He leads a breakdance. No, they don't call it breakdancing. Beat Boy crew. We'll talk about why a little bit. Why I self-corrected myself for those people who don't know what's going on. Called Spectre Crew since 1982.
Technically, we were together in 82, but we came up with the name in 83.
All right. I like saying 82 because that's my birthday. So
Okay.
even though I wasn't
82.
there, I was a baby.
Okay. 82, 83, depending on who you talk to.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't talk at the time. So.
It's all the same to me.
You couldn't ask me. But so yeah, we have him here as our special guest to talk about, because he's a martial artist and he also does beatboying, is in the hip hop culture thing. So here's a fun fact. There's a guy named John Chu, I think. Yeah, it's John Chu. John Chu. I think he met you at one of the tournaments. So yeah, he's always sending me stuff, and he went as far as telling me, for like some modern people, like we already know, like, you know, some of you know about Wu-Tang Clan, some of you know about Bruce Lee and like the early days of hip hop. But what I thought was interesting was he brought in Israel Adesanya, one of the newest UFC champions, and how he performed at a dance competition in New Zealand, and he does a style of crumping dance, and actually showed him like doing kicks and stuff. Like if you look here, it's like him doing a kick, and it's kind of interesting to see that he's been influenced, and he gives that big picture here in the background. That's a dance studio, right? And he says that some of his style bending, he's called the style bender in MMA, because he has this thing where he'll switch stances and he'll switch between different styles of martial arts. You can actually see it happening, and he's one of the few people that switches up, and he attributes this style of his to hip hop dance. So, kind of bring it all together from capoeira to all this. What is in your life? How has what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was it martial arts or was it hip hop?
For me?
Yeah, for you.
For me, personally, martial arts, specifically Kajukenbo with Alan Abad when I was a kid. So I got into that before I got into breaking and popping.
All right. So you guys, it was martial arts first.
Yeah. So martial arts, it's interesting because, you know, I was into martial arts, and then when I did see breaking for the first time, I don't say I wasn't impressed, but I don't know, I wasn't feeling it at first. I saw the acrobatics. You could see, you know, the windmills and the flips and the kip ups and all that stuff. You know, stuff that you would normally see in like wushu, kung fu, things like that. But it didn't hit me yet. It wasn't until I saw the like the footwork and the tops and things, you know, the style, and I was like, oh wow, okay, this is nice, because obviously the first thing they're going to show in the whole world is all the power moves, you know, head spins and back spins and flips, and you know, that's what they when you hear people call it breakdancing, especially people who are in the b-boy community. They're not really saying it in a positive way, and they almost like, oh yeah, the 80s breakdancing, it was just all power moves, you know, because that's what they want to show. That's what people get. Ooh, you know, it's like, you know, you want to see a guy do, you know, this Or do you want to see a guy do butterflies, twists, butterfly kicks, backflips? You know, even the XMA. I don't know if people still do the XMA. You know, that's all that fancy acrobatics and whatnot. People would rather see that than see, you know, see that kind of thing. And I think that's the same thing when breaking first came out. They wanted to see all that explosiveness, but you know, people that, because I was already popping, you know, and dancing, wasn't very good, but you know, I was still doing it. I had influences, my brothers and just all the older kids in the neighborhood. You know, I really liked popping, and then I saw the breaking in person. That's when it really, I connected with it, because I saw the tops and I saw them go down and do footwork and freezes. I'm like, whoa. And it was real nice. It was polished. It was actually, I'm going to go ahead and say his name. His name was John Cilendro. Was I'd say probably one of the first guys that I saw in person. And this was back in this was back in '82. And he lived down the street from me, so I saw him a lot. But we'd see him at house parties, and he was I had to say he was one of the best dancers back in the day. Not just breaking, but dancing. So when I saw him do it, just he had finesse, he had style. I'm like, oh wow, can I try it? And then, him and his younger brother, who was actually was one of my close friends, Paul Cilendro, his younger brother. Also, he could do. He was doing some top rock, and I was like, wow, what is that? What is that? Oh, that's breaking. I'm like, what? It's breaking? Oh, okay. And then I saw more of it, and that's when I, decided to try it out. And I'm like, okay. Because I wasn't going to do it at first.
And then you mentioned the movie Breaking for a second there, right? You were saying when you're saying Breaking, you mentioned the film Breaking real quick for a second there in the beginning of that, right?
No, I was just talking because when Breaking I use for all genders. Because if I say b-boying, well, you're a girl. Okay, the girls, they call them b-girling or b-girls. You know what I mean? Okay. It's kind of confusing.
So breaking kind of puts it all together.
Yeah, so breaking would be a kind of a unisex. It's kind of like martial arts. We don't have a specific term for karate. Well, we call them karate girls or kaju girls, we call them. But we just say you're doing martial arts, you're doing karate. We're not going to call it, it's not gender specific. And back then, I don't know why they started calling it, but today, in today's world, they don't, things are a little different. So I like to use the universal term breaking for everyone. But I understand b-boy and b-girls and all that because I've lived it.
Well, it's still worth mentioning the film Breaking though, because because what a few people don't know is martial artist Jean-Claude Van Damme had a quick appearance doing his kickboxing dance. So there he goes. Ooh. He's been doing that dance for a very long time, by the way. This is way before Breaking.
He's come a long way since No Retreat, No Surrender.
Yeah, definitely.
Bruce Lee, one of those Bruce Lee movies that that they made.
Yeah,
a lot of Bruce Lee films. But the influence. Interesting because you just pointed out the movie Breaking, Jean-Claude Van Damme. There's a lot of b-boys out there that do martial arts. I mean, I remember. I'm going to tell you a story from way back. Fresh Festival. I'm not sure it's Festival 1 or 2, but I went to both of them. And that was in the 80s when the big concert came to town. Nucleus, Run DMC, Dynamic Breakers. They had all these people come, just a hip hop tour. And I remember seeing someone come out with a broadsword, and he did a wushu set. And I was just amazed. I'm like, wow, they were playing music and they had the lights. And when a sword would come around and the light would hit it, and you can hear the wushu swords when they snap. And this was like, it must have been like 1985, I think it was. So they were all, not just inspired by martial arts films, but a lot of guys were actually doing martial arts. Another interesting fact, our rec suits. I don't make them anymore, but you remember the rec suits we had, our team uniforms? Okay, so rec suits were created by Fast Feet Fonetez, if I'm saying his name correctly. Okay, so Fast Feet, he's a martial artist, and I remember calling him, ordering the uniforms because I had them custom made. Remember the ones with the gold pinstripes? And I didn't know it at the time, I didn't put two and two together, but he knew my instructor at the time. He heard of him, and they used to compete together. And then later on, when I realized, wait a minute, Fast Feet Contest, this guy, he sold us the rec suit, but this guy's Rocksteady Crew. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm just talking to a member of Rocksteady Crew, not even knowing it. And it was about martial arts. I mean, if I had known, we would have talked about breaking. I would have struck up a conversation. But it's just cool that that's where he went with martial arts. So I don't know, maybe he was probably doing martial arts at the same time. But now, our rec suits, I still have mine. I mean, they were built to last. I still have that one. But that's just an example of, was he a martial artist and then b-boy, or was he both at the same time? Whereas, I started martial arts. I got into breaking, but I never stopped doing the martial arts. The breaking, I'm going to be honest here that there was a gap that I wasn't in there, and it was the 90s when it was coming back. And I started getting back into the scene, going to clubs, and I started seeing the breaking. And then I got married, and when you get married, my wife she's not a club girl, and so I wasn't going to clubs anymore, and I stopped. It was more about, okay, I got to get a job, I got to get an apartment, I got to grind, the adult grind. So I missed the whole 90s, what do you want to call it, revolution, the whole 90s thing, which is okay because I'm still here, and my condition, even though a lot of your viewers, they don't know the name yet. Oh, and I guess I probably should also say that, because you didn't introduce me as your instructor, but most people don't know. Yeah, I'll lay those facts out, about.
Should have said that first. There's a lot of things I don't mention though. So another thing I'm supposed to say at the beginning of every episode is I'm supposed to say like, share, and subscribe, and I never say it. Oh, I always remember to say it at the end.
I'll say like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah,
make sure you do that. So I'll just
we'll say that 10, 15 minutes into the interview. Okay, let me clear some things up. Now that we're halfway through, this is my instructor. This is my martial arts instructor, Professor Ronnie Sagiri, who's also a rank tester. Also, make sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Yeah.
I'll say it halfway through.
What's interesting is so let me just tell you guys that we don't, even to this day, we don't have a normal, I don't say normal relationship, but
that's definitely not normal.
No, because we were, when we first met, I remember, meeting you and hearing about you in the neighborhood, doing your whatever, you doing your martial arts, learning from books and all that. And we've talked about the meeting next door, but you were just 4 houses down the street from me. Not only did we do the martial arts, but Angelo was Jello, DJ Jello. He was the DJ of our crew, Spectre Crew, which is original 80s break. I don't say break because we did a little bit of everything. I would say at the time we were a hip hop crew because you were also a rapper with what was the rapping?
It was
Depth Soul Rhythm.
Depth Soul Rhythm,
yeah. And a bunch of other things. Angelo was a rock star as far as I was concerned with Parker's. He was I still have your CDs too. So, but yeah, we did a lot, not just martial arts. I mean, we partied, we hung out, I don't know. I don't know if you tried to teach me to surf one time.
I did.
Yeah. It didn't take. I enjoy watching you surf.
I think out of the, I've taught about, I always every year I take a group of 10 people to try to surf, and usually maybe one will survive. Surfing,
but anyways,
surfing is relentless. This is kind of very big.
In 2009, when we brought back the crew for my kids and all his friends, and we were like 50 deep. It was just crazy. The crew was just blowing up. Angelo was the DJ, and we used to throw regular jams. Park, King of the Gazebo, KOG. And he was the DJ. He'd always set up the DJ, or he would rap, and so that's kind of our connection is the martial arts and just everything else in the hip hop, and you would know more about the rapping. I mean, I missed out on a lot of '90s, good '90s stuff because I was kind of like this. I was upset because I love the '80s. I'm not gonna lie, I love the '80s, and just the music. A lot of the music I missed because I mean, I don't even know. I don't even. Should I even mention that? I was listening to country in the '90s.
No, you should, because if anybody who got this far in likes country, they should know. They should know that you like country.
I think basically, to be honest, when I was kind of out of it in the '90s, as soon as the hip hop started, because when I grew up, hip hop for me was all about the parties and having a good time, and we'd have our little the house parties in Mira Mesa, and as soon as the music started turning to gangster rap and profanity and cursing and killing and shooting, I'm sorry, but I couldn't identify with that, and I didn't want to hear that shit. I really didn't. It's like, why do I want to hear that? Okay, I understand, folks grew up at different, neighborhoods and they're expressing themselves, but I don't have to listen to that. I don't, maybe they have a point, maybe there's politics to it, but I still don't have to listen to it if I feel that it's making me feel negative. And it did. It made me feel uncomfortable. It had a good beat. You can play a beat all day and just, get on there and curse, but maybe someone doesn't want to hear you dropping F-bombs or whatever. And even on your podcast, I can curse, but you don't hear me really cursing all that much.
I think
I called him F. What's that?
I think you were the first one to say. I don't think I cussed up until I haven't cussed yet. I don't think so. I'll have to listen to the recording. You said shit first.
Oh. Well, you hear that on the radio and TV.
Well, I don't.
That's on the radio and TV.
So the funny thing is that, like, to be honest, I don't. So I was listening to a comedian talk about. I also studied comedy for a while, and when I first got into comedy, I actually did. I went out and did a stand-up set out here in Japan, and I went out and did my stand-up set. And right before I did it, one of the things I found out studying comedy is that a lot of amateurs will cuss more to try to sound edgier, to make up for lack of material. So
they're trying to get like a shock effect.
Yeah.
So
like a shock effect.
Wow. So he said the F word.
He said the F word, toilet jokes, sexual jokes, dick jokes. These are things that I thought when I was putting my set together would make me different. And I didn't realize it was just making me like everyone else. That's what people normally gravitate towards when they're new to the field. When you're really good, you can make a joke. Or the same with hip hop. If you're really good at freestyling, you can freestyle about anything with or without cussing, right? So you got some great hip hop artists like A Tribe Called Quest who were known for not cussing, but they had great material. Like everyone knows like can I kick it, right? And yes, you can I kick it, right? Everyone knows these classical songs, and what they don't even notice is that they didn't need to cuss because they were so good. Now, some people do like to cuss. Nothing against those people. I like Wu-Tang Clan. They cuss a lot, but they have like this whole going back to culture, coming from the East Coast. They come from violent neighborhoods, and they felt talking about it was a way of letting the public know that this is what their experience was. And at the time, there was no internet, so it was like their way of putting it on a platform to try to bring attention to a gang issue. It was actually their way of trying to, because they felt that the media was kind of glossing them over and not really mentioning the struggles they were having, and they were using hip hop. And it's funny though, when you look at it, when you actually meet the artists, you'll find out that like 90% of them are not even in gangs. So really, they were saying about how they're in a crew and whatever, and they shoot this and kill that person.
They're actors.
But in reality, they were actors, and they were more like influencers talking about what they saw happening in their neighborhood, and they knew that by talking about it, it would bring attention to it, right? So like it's kind of interesting to see how both things, and this kind of brings back the whole like this is about how martial arts and hip hop have these similarities. And one thing I can say about hip hop and martial arts is this sense of community. So you were just saying earlier about how we do those competitions, and we were all martial artists, and we'd have these dance battles, and people would get together in the community from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different races. We have them in Rancho Bernardo, which was kind of an interesting place to have a battle because you have the affluent neighborhoods right across that bridge. Like you have the right across the bridge. If you're not from San Diego, there's this bridge. It's a nice mall. And there's like a lake called Lake Hodges. You go right across that bridge, and there's a more affluent neighborhood. You go on the other side of that, you have Escondido, a huge crack problem, and a bunch of violence, a bunch of gang violence right down. And we'd have them like in the middle. So, and then some people would come from Central San Diego too, where there's even more gang violence, right? So
Yeah,
it's kind of
yeah.
interesting to see people coming from different areas, from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and just dancing and having a good time and not really going down that, talking about that, or even expressing it because that wasn't the focus. And I think the same thing happens in martial arts too. Like you'll have a tournament, you'll have people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and they kind of put everything aside and they get together and they have this experience, which is this broader sense of community that is kind of missing in a lot of places nowadays. Like people kind of stay in their bubbles. So
Hmm.
that's what I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, that's true. You know, talking about the similarities, when you look at a martial artist and the life of a martial artist and the life of a b-boy, um, very similar. You think about it, okay? Um, my martial arts, so the way I look at my martial arts, it's a part of me. It's an everyday thing I do. It's not an activity for me. It's just I've been doing it since I was a kid. Same thing with the breaking. Um, they live that lifestyle. I'll just say it's the way they say like a warrior. The discipline is there because if you're going to become a world class b boy or b girl, you're if you don't have the discipline, you're not going to succeed. In martial arts, the same thing. You have to have the discipline.
You have to
You have
love
to
it.
have
You have to
have a
love it.
passion
You actually
for it,
have to love
the
it. Not
drive. Yep, yep.
not not the, and I think this happens in martial arts and happens in b-boy and b-girling too. You've seen this 1,000 times in b-boy and girling. I've seen 1,000 times. Now I teach I like to call it the MMA just to trigger the internet, but I teach the MMA. And I always tell people that like that person who comes in that says I want to be the next MMA champion, and the same as the beat boy that comes in says I want to be on the Red Bull team. Those people that come in saying that and they have their eye on the peak of the mountain, on the very top of the mountain, and that's their goal, and that's it, are missing the entire fucking mountain. Oh, I said it. There's my first F bomb.
You
But
did.
they are.
Yeah.
But they are. They're missing the whole. You like enjoy the climb. People, I know it sounds so cliche. Enjoy the damn journey, but yeah, like enjoy doing the thing that you came in to do. So you have to have the discipline. You have to. If you're gonna be a b boy, b girl, you gotta love beat boy and b girl. If you're gonna be a good martial, you gotta
Yeah.
love doing doing martial arts. Like you love kicking, punching, training, learning different styles. You have to have a love and passion for that. Otherwise, you're
Yes.
never gonna get
Yes.
to the top. It's just gonna be something that was like a whimsical goal. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no.
I
That
had
was
to rant
good.
on that because
I'll take it a step further. About that journey to get to the top. True martial artists never know that they reach the top. That person getting to the top because whatever your goal is, they get there. Oh my goal, I want to be on top of the mountain. I want a black belt. So they get their black belt and they stop. You spend 2 years in Taekwondo, 4 years in your average martial arts dojo, or if you're one of my students, it can take anywhere from 4, 5, up to 10 years, or even longer. If you're Larry Gordon, it takes a lot longer. He was a brown belt for 10 years. But you're putting all that time in, then you get your black belt, you quit. It's like becoming a bodybuilder. I'm going to lift all these weights and exercise and get my health. I'm because when you do martial arts, it's also some people don't want to just get to the top of the mountain. They want to be able to walk to the mountain because their health. Some people, and I say walk because I was paralyzed for a year and a half. You want that, you get into the journey, but why would you do that? Why would you get your body to peak performance? Hit my goal, I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna stop. Hey, I got my college degree. Hey, I got a college degree, but I'm not gonna do anything with it. I'm gonna go work at McDonald's because they're paying $20 an hour. The same thing. It's just
yeah.
Why would you do that? It's that mentality. But when you're really true and you're living the lifestyle, you might get to that top and you would never know it because you're just on that journey. Like me, I'm on a journey. I'm not going to get to the point where I'm going to stop. And a lot of it has to do with my my autoimmune disease, my CIDP, which we talked about eons ago when you interviewed me. It wasn't a video, by the way. We did a phone call. It was a phone call interview. But yeah, about my CIDP, and I was, well, you were over there in Japan. You didn't know how I was doing, but I, even to this day, um, I use certain aspects of martial arts just to keep me going. Like I still compete. 55 years old. I have a rare autoimmune disease, nerve damage throughout my body. My number one issue is weakness in the ankles and balance issues. And martial arts is all about balance. So you imagine when I go compete, and judges, I don't tell the judges, oh, judges, I'm disabled. I have I just go out there and I do my thing. And the first time I came back, it was okay, but I use it just on the daily to challenge myself. I use my forms for warm ups. I know how you feel about forms, and I'm going to say it. I had to say it. Um, it's useful if you know what you're going to use it. It's a tool. I use it to warm up. I use it for balance exercises. It helps me with my balance. So anyone who doesn't like forms or do forms, maybe they just weren't very good at forms. Not everyone's a forms guy. Not everyone's a b-boy. But you, like you said, you have to love it. I love martial arts. I love Kajukenbo, and I love breaking. I like so I would say not all hip hop, but I do because I was there in the early days. I have love for it, the journey that I've been on. But today, what it is, there's just certain aspects that that I like, and some things I don't.
Yeah, well, what's funny now though
Go
is like you're saying about how you're like I didn't like '90s hip hop, and now we're in 2025, and like I joke around about the Wu-Tang Clan, but the Wu-Tang Clan at this point is just here's oh damn, here's a sad thing about it's like what I look at as the '90s, thinking because I'm old and I think it's like right around the corner, is now the same gap. It's actually a longer gap from 2025 to the '90s. Is a longer gap from '90s to '70s.
Yeah, yeah.
So in other words, when I say Wu-Tang Clan, it would be like me saying the Bee Gees back in the day. You see how that works?
Yeah.
So like it's so like this is a weird thing happening now where like now the new hip hop is all like social media everything's about social media influencers and these people that are now on the scene that are using social media to get there, and it's a total different animal. I don't even know what's going on. I'm just as lost as maybe you were about the '90s hip hop right now with the 2025 hip hop. I put it on. The people,
but you know what, you're as lost as I was trying to set up Zoom on this MacBook. I don't know anything about these computers, and I mean, we started 30 minutes late because of me. But like you said, it's that gap. Give me a PC, I'm fine. and the funny thing is, I have an iPhone and I can navigate that, but I can't figure out this laptop yet. I don't know. I'll get there.
So
I'll get there.
So what's interesting though is again going back on what we were saying, like, and another thing that happens going back to martial arts is you can tell the people that got into MMA to become a UFC champion and that was it, because they'll become a UFC champion, they'll get their belt, maybe they'll lose their belt or they'll give up their belt, they'll turn to an intermediate belt, and that's it. They're done. They're finished. They retire. They cash in. You check on them later, and they're like, "I'm happy. I'm happy." Like Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's goal from day one, if you read his book, he wanted to make money off of fighting. He didn't care whether it was wrestling, kickboxing, whatever it was. It ended up being pro wrestling for a long time, and then it became an MMA fighter, and then went back to pro wrestling. It was all about making money. And then if you ask him, what do you want to do outside of that? I want to be a farmer. So as soon as the fighting is done, he's done. He's not fighting. He's not training. He's just farming because that's what he wanted to do. He looked at martial arts as a means to an end. Well, you have an actual martial artist like George St. Pierre, who did Kyokushin karate, and he talks a lot about how hard it was to get his black belt in Kyokushin karate. And for people who talk shit about people who get a black belt as a teenager, George St. Pierre got his black belt as a teenager because he started as a child, and he got his junior black belt and his senior black belt all at once. There's a lot of like controversy and that kind of stuff, but he just used that as a springboard to go from Kyokushin karate to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under John Danaher. and then he just kept going up and up and up. Eventually, he meets Philip Jelinas because Philip Jelinas brought the first BJJ school to Canada. So
Hmm.
bringing in some Kajukenbo guys. So he ends up going to Philip Jelinas' place. That's where he got his purple belt. He got his blue belt. He got his blue. Yeah, he got all the purple belt there. So he came in. He didn't know anything. He got brought in by his trainer, his MMA trainer. But someone like George St. Pierre goes to the top, gets his MMA belt. You look at George St. Pierre's profile now, he's still training. He's still sitting there. He's doing
Yeah.
his Kyokushin
Well,
karate.
he's a
He's a
martial
martial artist. Yes. Yes. So like
Yeah.
I want to say that these people, not to devalue Brock Lesnar and the accomplishments he made, he did a great job. He wanted to be a farmer, right? So like I think there's a distinction between this kind of people, and I still feel that people like George St. Pierre enjoy it more. Well, if you talk to Brock Lesnar, he doesn't have a lot of happy stories. Like if you read his book, he's got a lot of anger and resentment and bad contracts and like just a whole slew of negativity. If you read his book, he talks about it. He's got a very
Yeah.
negative experience. But you talk George St. Pierre, it's just like, yep, yeah, it was a great time, and this, and that, this fight, and I learned this, and then it was just like a fun story all the way through. And yeah, he'll be
Mhm.
like, yeah, there was some downs, but mostly it's all ups. And I want to say that if you really absorb the martial arts philosophy and you do it because you love it, you will enjoy it more than the person who just does it as a means to an end.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Um, we really didn't talk about the influence,
Not really.
the
Well,
history.
kind of. We didn't really talk about the history. We talked about how martial arts and how we talked about your history, and we talked about how martial arts influenced you getting into breaking, to use a general term, and how breaking, and then we didn't really talk about outside of that. So here's a quick list of things outside of that, right, before we wrap up. So Lateef Crowder, he's a capoeira specialist and stuntman known for his breakdancing movements in movies like Undisputed 3. And he did all the moves for the guy in Tekken, the video game Tekken, the
Mhm.
capoeira stylist. He did the moves for that. So there's a martial artist who did some breakdancing. Tricking, beat boying, and martial arts. Daniel Graham and Steve Terada. Many trickers incorporate breakdancing moves into their martial arts performances. Donnie Yen, even though he's not a breakdancer, he admits to incorporating hip hop dance movies in his movies like Flashpoint and Kung Fu Jungle. Tony Jaa, he's a Muay Thai guy, and he's known for his acrobatics, and a lot of his stuff resembles breakdance power moves, which is interesting because if you've seen Tony Jaa, you'll see that. And then Scott Adkins has incorporated breakdance inspired movements in his fight choreography, especially as Yuri Byokia in the movie Undisputed. And then there's breakdancers who use martial arts elements, like Beat Boy Cloud, Daniel Campos. He incorporates martial arts inspired movements in his beat boy style. And then there's Beat Boy Lou, known for using kung fu stances in the middle of his breakdance routines, his breaking routines. Beat Boy Ronnie, don't get confused now, because although although my martial arts instructor, there I said it, because I didn't say it earlier, is named Ronnie Sagiri. His beat boy name is Ronzone. So the person I'm talking to is not to be confused with Ronzone. That's his name. The B-boy Ron is a different B-boy. He integrates kicks and martial arts transitions in his breaking. And then B-boy Nugian actually does say he puts capoeira into his breakdance fusion. So I still feel there's more of an influence for martial arts onto the hip hop community rather than the other way around. Even though some people do say it, like we opened up earlier with Israel Adesanya saying that his crumping helped his martial arts.
Yeah.
I want to say it's been the reverse of it has been more true. Martial arts has influenced hip hop, and now of course they're working together. But if you look at anything, you'll always find a solve from there.
We originally I was trying to get Freak Show, the Freak Brothers on here, but I'm sure they're Saturday. They're not gonna get on here. They probably have lots of things to do. But they the Freak Show, Freakazoid and Boogeyman, those guys went from they have their original style of breaking. It's totally it's very unique. But one thing with the style that they do is they do a lot of like things that require extreme balance and strength. And when they transitioned from breaking into jujitsu, 10th pound of jujitsu, man, they were competing in black belt level when they weren't even black belts because their balance was so good, you know, and and you could, and they even have their own signature types of moves because their flexibility is really different. And you've seen some of their matches, you know, and if you ever watch the way they break, and then you watch the way they do their jujitsu, I mean, you see where the we're talking about influence from breaking or hip hop to martial arts or martial arts to hip hop. I mean, it's clear cut right there that I think because they had that background with their breaking, that it made them jujitsu just became natural for them. Not to mention, I'm sure I seem to recall. I think they did wrestling in high school.
Yeah, and then
So
the thing about Richie Boogeyman Martinez, he's also under 10th Planet, and he's been working with Eddie Bravo, right? So, and Eddie, if you
yeah,
don't know who Eddie Bravo has been known for training with Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's actually Eddie talks about on a different podcast about how Joe Rogan used to beat his ass in in jiu-jitsu. And then Joe Rogan's also talked about Boogeyman and how he uses how he uses he's mentioned him on a show about how he uses jujitsu, how breakdancing, he sees his influence and how it's helped his jujitsu. So again, like,
mm-hmm.
I think kind of like even forums. I know people always think I hate forums. I say I'm not a forums guy. This is kind of like the movie Quickly Down Under, where if you, I don't want to give away the good point of Quickly Down Under. I'll just say that throughout the whole movie, I don't think anyone's gonna watch it. If you're interested in some old ass movies with Tom Selleck, um,
Who?
was it Tom Selleck? No, it wasn't Tom Selleck. Or was it? It was Tom Selleck. It was Tom Selleck. It was Tom Selleck. So a movie called Quickly Down Under about a cowboy who goes to
Yeah, yeah.
Australia, and he's told he's being hired to fight a bunch of dingoes. And he's a rifle guy. He's a cowboy, but he loves to use a rifle. Throughout the whole film, he's using a rifle and how he can shoot from far away. How come you never use a handgun? How come you never use a handgun? It's like I never had much use for it. I've never had much use for it, right? And that's how I am with forms. Like I've personally haven't had much use for them, but it doesn't mean I don't do them. It doesn't mean I don't like them. That's not my primary focus. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say though, forums, breakdancing, you can't do martial arts all the time, 8 hours a day. You can, but it'll break you down. So if I sat there and I just did kickboxing drills one after another, there's only so much my body can hit a bag as I get older. There's only so many times I can impact it like that. But you can supplement. You can if you have the time. Now, John Hackelman, I was always arguing that it's because people don't have the time, right? I argue it's because people don't make the time. But,
Yes.
so like that's my counter argument.
To me, that's the difference between because they talk about the ranks and all the titles. That's the difference between someone who achieved their black belt and someone who did not. The black belt made the time. We've got a lot of students. So a lot of people got black belt, a lot of people did not. But it's always the point. Well, if I had more time, or why don't you just make the time? It's called making a commitment.
Yeah.
Why are you so scared to make a commitment? I make the commitment.
Just make the time.
Yeah.
Like,
so make the time. Just put the time aside.
So like
make it happen.
And what happens with like what I can say about why, like going back to Beat Boy Boogeyman, you can't do jujitsu for 8 hours a day. You can't. You can for a while. You'll be able to do it maybe for a few months, but sooner or later you won't be able to do it. And either your body will break down or you'll mentally break down. One of the two things is going to happen. Either you're going to get bored and you're going to be like, man, I don't want to do this again. Like how many more arm triangles, how many more worm guards and X guards and the closed guards can I do till I'm bored? And the cool thing about doing some like breakdancing is that it gives you a mental break from the other thing you're doing, but it's still helping the other thing you're doing. And that's like the influence between martial arts and hip hop right there, is you can still do this other thing that's not the same thing, but it helps you with the other thing that you're doing. And it gives you a break from it, because you can't I guess you can. There's some people who are obsessed and they can't do that. I'm not, I can't. So like that's where it kind of helps, where you can kind of do both. So yeah, that I would say that, like, going back to what you were saying about what's the influence between hip hop and martial arts and hip hop. I think that's one of the things that if you're someone who does martial arts, you can go back and forth between martial arts and dance, and it'll help both. Both will help each other if you make the time.
Yeah, if you make the time.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Making the time, make that commitment.
Yeah. Well, this has been another episode of the Social Jello with Angelo podcast. What do you think? How has dance helped you? If you sat through this whole interview and maybe you don't do hip hop dance, maybe you do country square dance, or maybe you do contemporary dance. I used to do contemporary dance, interpretive dance. Maybe you do ballet. I don't know.
In my kitchen.
Yeah. So, how about you? Has dance helped you at all with hip hop with martial arts? Has martial arts helped you with whatever dance you're doing? Go in the comments and share. And I'll catch you all next time.